And thank you so much for the fascinating talk on how culture as incubators for city marketing. And right now, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Cheryl Cole. She is the Marketing and Corporate Communication Director from the National Heritage Board. She's going to help moderate this session. So, and just a few housekeeping rules for all of you. We have people around that is going to pass the mic around if you want to ask question. And if you like to, could we get you to identify yourself and the organization you're from before you answer, before you post the question. Thank you.
Well, I think the audience probably has questions. I'll start off first. As someone working in the cultural sector, you have an enviable job, putting, as what Alan said, putting heritage and culture really at the heart of city marketing, which I think as us, is something that we would love to do. Any tips for us?
Well, first of all, the success was there, but we had to convince a lot of people, especially the people who are much more in hard tourism, that culture could be an economic incubator. I think which is very important, that what museums have to do is to prove their economic importance. So what's my turnover for a city? And not a museum or a theater or whatever, a cultural institution, say, okay, this is what I bring in. You have a soft result. This is about image of a city, because a city has a better image when it has a lot of culture offerings. But also, what's the turnover here? How do I play a part in the economic profile of my city? What I think is very important, that people, in this case of Singapore, are getting to know their cultural infrastructure and starting to get proud of it, and telling that to friends. And to other people in Singapore, because I think that is very important. And I think there should be a way to talk with is it the Tourist Board of Singapore? How's the organization called? Tourist Board.
Tourism Board, yeah.
To say, okay, how can we supply you with information coming up? We know we have you have wonderful museums opening in October. Is the National Board of Tourism or the Singapore Tourism Board organizing press trips? Or should we ask for that, which is actually stupid, because they knew it already. And it's in an opening of a museum is a one-time possibility to get press attention, international press. So I think you should make, because I know people from classical tourism board are very much focused in economic drivers. Does it bring in money? But there's another thing which is called image. And the problem is with image, it doesn't bring in money. It will bring in money in 5-6 years. So you have to convince people that image building is not a revenue thing. It will bring in money later, but you have to invest in image.
Yeah. You spoke a little bit about getting the people proud of heritage, and I mean we have kind of right now we're celebrating our Jubilee year, and of course I think we see a lot of resurgence of that. That people are really getting more proud of our own heritage. We're looking for our national identity. We have young people who want to join us in projects and all that. Do you spend a lot of time also, because one of your target audience I spent a bit of time on your website, was that you're also marketing to your own people as well? Yeah. Do you do a lot of that too?
Not enough. We're going to do that more. We publish a monthly magazine in Dutch. It's for free. It's focused for Amsterdam people, where all the cultural diaries and all the new restaurants. So that's what we do. We have a big festival every year, what we do. But I think it's not enough. And of course, our brand is everywhere. And Amsterdam people are typical city people. They are arrogant, they are proud, they're rude. And when this was, they thought it was stupid when they invented this. And now they kind of they don't admit it, but they're kind of embracing it. Also because when you go, when you have a new child, you have to go to City Hall to register, and then you get a baby towel with I Amsterdam. It's purely blackmail, but it helps a lot. So I get all these texts. Oh, thank you, Uncle Frans. So it's, but it's difficult, and I have to say, talking a bit this problem about the balance and angry people on the canals, it gets more and more and more important. It gets more, and so we are seriously thinking now from, okay, it's going so well in Amsterdam, maybe we should stop our Chinese activities because they will come anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll stop it. I'm not sure. But maybe you can make a decision about it. So okay, we're going to stop there. We're going to invest this money in doing more for inhabitants.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but because we're going to talk about this with my management team in June. But it's interesting, and I think we should do more for visitors.
So,
What we have, for instance, is 24 hours, you saw in the clips. That's a thing we invented in 2013, and it's to get Amsterdammers to other parts of the city. So that's a really Amsterdam thing. The concerts in the park, open air concerts, really done for Amsterdam people.
Yeah. So it's a balance of both, marketing.
But I think we have to do more.
Yeah. So it's important to both market to your local inhabitants as well, to the tourists and all that. Of course, ban the word tourism, but shall I open up the floor? Yes.
Hi, my name is Juliana, and I'm actually from the Singapore Tourism Board. Actually, there are quite a few of us here today. And maybe before I ask my two questions, I'll just share that over the last 2 or 3 years, we have seen a shift in our strategy as well. Those of you who are familiar know that today we recognize local engagement and reaching out to locals as being a key pillar of our work. So I have two questions, and I apologize in advance that my first question is very Singaporean. It's related to key performance indicators for your organization. Just like you, we do a whole gamut of work. We look at economic effect type indicators. We also do a lot of branding and marketing. For your organization, are there 3 or 4 success measures that you zoom in on in order to make sure that your organization is on the right track? That's my first question. And my second question is related to what you cited of how you've convinced the big players to bring along the small players with them. How you tell them that...
you mean the arrogant museum people?
Yeah.
I work there, so I can say.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if there are certain lessons that you'll be able to share with us about how you managed to convince them, because I imagine that it can't have been easy, and it's certainly something that we in Singapore would like to work towards as well.
Well, your first question about the KPIs, I didn't show that slide because it's such a boring slide, but we have it called Dashboard Citymarketing 2012-2018. And there are my KPIs from the City of Amsterdam, because they're giving me every year 4 million euros. So in 5 years, it's 22 million euros. So they said, okay, in 2018, you have to have reached this and this and this. And these KPIs are devised in 3 target groups: visitors, inhabitants, and companies. So I have to realize 3% growth of overnight hotel stays. I have to raise, I don't know by heart, but all the Amsterdam people have to visit 2 cultural institutions a year. That's the quantitative things, but there are also qualitative things. Amsterdam people have to give a number in proudness of their city. So it has to be an 8.5 in 2018. Visitors have to, well, there are a lot of KPIs, I can tell you. There are 16 or something. And the funny thing is that after we did this in 2012, and now it's 3 years later, and now we're already changing it, because I have to realize a growth of 3% in hotel overnight. I realized the past 2 years 26%. So hey, I'm ready. So what do we do now? And this current problem about visitors and inhabitants also raises different KPIs. Secondly, it's a good question. I think it helps because I came from that institutions. And when I worked at the Rijksmuseum and I worked at the Hermitage, I always said, hey, you should be generous. You should be a responsible institution. You're the biggest one. It's not because of you, Mr. Head of Marketing, that you are the biggest museum, because their museum is 200 years old. So you are You have a responsibility to be a responsible institution. You have to share your power. And of course, you are the strongest one. We all know that. We all know that. You're the big one. But there are smaller guys, and just take them along. Mention them in your leaflet when you have another exhibition. Package it. And when we go to the opening of the Rijksmuseum for the late Rembrandt, we also go to the opening of a Rembrandt exhibition in the smaller Rembrandt house, because that's smart to do that. And nobody has a problem as long as you honor the power of the large institution. In my field, to really put them in the window, we put them in front of the ship. They're always there. So we honor them, but then in advance we say, okay, we are investing money in you as an institution, but please take along the smaller ones, or learn them things. Because sometimes the head of marketing of the Rijksmuseum teaches the small museums what they have to do, which is, I think, very nice and responsible. And we have a museum roundtable, and we have a theater roundtable where all the museums are, and we chair that. So we talk together about marketing campaigns. So it sounds, well, I think it's easy. It went easier than you think in Amsterdam. I'm not know about the situation here, but in Amsterdam it went kind of easy. But it's also because there was a whole generation of new directors. With my appointment, and we all know each other, so that's just a phone call, and then don't give me that shit, just do it. No, but we're really good friends, and really that helps. We just talk each other and say, okay, let's do that together. Shall we go together to Singapore? Shall we go together to Munich? And let's do it. And how much money you want? How much money I have? So it's easier because it's an other generation. I think that's a big thing in it.
Yeah, we have a similar thing here at the Museum Roundtable as well, where we kind of try and lead the sector, because National Heritage Board itself, we do have the largest museums before the gallery opens, and then we also see ourselves as, you know, have to be responsible to, you know, work together with our smaller players as well. Even though Singapore is small, but we do have a lot of museums, we have many monuments as well, and this is also a responsibility to kind of work together with everyone. So, next question from the audience. Well, while the audience is thinking, I have one as well. I see a lot of, you know, I was paying attention and reading the website as well. You know, I saw in the video that you use a lot of, it's interesting how you've also marketed, you know, you talk a lot about history and all that, but at the same time you talk about contemporary culture as well, because museums are always seen as old, you know, dusty, and then yet you also talk about the contemporary part of it. So how do you do the balance of those two in your marketing?
I don't think we are looking for a balance. I think we look for things which are marketing-wise interesting. And actually, I don't care what it is. As long as it's innovation, creative, spirit of commerce, it's unique, has quality, and has a DNA of Amsterdam. I don't care if it's a new shop, a young designer, or a new exhibition. That sounds very stupid. But you have to look at this. You have to look like this. When, okay, and of course the late Rembrandt is a very big show. It draws a lot of publicity, and you have to recognize that too. And I think the combination you do. For instance, we had an exhibition of Marcel Wanders, the designer, the Dutch designer, who is very famous, on the Stedelijk Museum of Modern Art. We flew in 50 or 60 press people. And then we let them stay in hotels where contemporary Amsterdam designers worked. We had them at dinner in restaurants where contemporary Amsterdam architects worked. We went to shops where you can buy contemporary design. So the whole thing was a combination of commercial and cultural things, and it was the power of that exhibition that enabled us to do that. And we went also with these people. These were journalists interested in design, so we took them to the head of the design of G-Star, because G-Star is an Amsterdam brand. So we took them to the head of the design department of G-Star, and they were stupefied by that visit. So and G-Star is as unique, you could say, with 6,000 shops in 65 countries in 25 years, born in Amsterdam. So that's a brand. So we use the brand of the Rijksmuseum and G-Star or the Stedelijk Museum together, because in the end they're both internationally important. And it's about design.
Yeah, and interesting to all visitors, I suppose. Yeah, the combination of that too. That's great. Because I mean, I was going through the website and see that you put Canal cruising, which I thought was very touristy, but you've, you know, really mentioned talking about the history of the canal and all that, because it is a World Heritage Site. Is that right? And so how do you work around that?
canals. They're actually the largest attraction in Amsterdam. They have 5 million, users or sorry, passengers a year. Yeah, and it's like when you live in Amsterdam. Sometimes sometimes I go on Canal tour because I have guests or something, or press, and then I always am amazed. Like, oh, how nice this is. So I get it why everybody sees this. And the point is, when you go to Amsterdam, the houses are so narrow and high. The best way to see it is from the water. There is no point in that. So you have to do that. So what we have to do is that the information the guides do or the audios do is good. And sometimes it's crap what they tell. It's not true. It's hearsay. It's an old story. And sometimes you say, oh, you can't say this. This is not very nice. Or sometimes you have to say, listen, this is the house of the mayor. It's a very important house. It is totally built by money earned by slave trade. You should think about, should you say this or not? But so we have meetings now with the people of the canals, saying how we're going to improve the quality of what you're saying there.
Okay. So what's your relationship now with your tourism board? How does it work?
Which tourism board? The national?
Yeah, which ones do you work with now? Since you said you've taken over the tourism role.
No, but there is no tourism board in Amsterdam anymore. That's the whole idea of my talk. We merged everybody.
All together, yeah. So there would be a national one?
Yeah, there's a national one. It's called Holland Marketing, or the Dutch Board of Tourism. And we have a relationship, of course we have a relationship with them because they have offices outside the Netherlands, so we work with them. And we're actually currently talking about the division. And I always say, can Holland do without Amsterdam, or can Amsterdam do without Holland? And I know the answer, but I'm not telling it. But no, that's nonsense, because you have to work together. But I don't want their information. They have information on holland.com. For instance, we had a wonderful program for New Year's Eve, talking about festivities, new restaurants, celebrations, new museums, galleries. And I went, and then somebody, my online manager, say, look what they have done on their homepage on Amsterdam. It says, you go and, oh, New Year's Eve, go to the red light district. I said, this is what we don't want anymore. This is 20 years ago. You are presenting a different Amsterdam than I'm doing on my website. We've got more people on our website than your website, but I don't want it. So let's make a memory of understanding that we are going to write your texts on Amsterdam. And they said, well, and said it's cheaper for you because you don't have to hire a writer anymore. So that's what they done. So I thought we were in a kind of aggressive friendship, but now I think it's coming good. So we are actually, that's our only person we talk with in tourism in the Netherlands.
I see. Okay. Any questions?
I'm Shuli from Singapore Tourism Board as well. I just wanted to. We are kind of spread out, but yes, I see a lot of my colleagues. I just wanted to find out two things from you. Amsterdam is something quite similar to our brand. It's also called Your Singapore, so there's kind of a relevance there. So I just wanted to find out, first of all, what exactly led to the genesis of Amsterdam, because it's also two words similar to Your Singapore. So I find a bit of that connection there. I wanted to find out a little bit more about just exactly what went behind this whole entire slogan that went really successful. And the second question is really about how you said about you've hit your KPIs for 2012 to 2018 and you're looking at revising it. So the example that you raised was you hit about 26% for hotel stays and etc. So I just wanted to find out what is the next step for Amsterdam then, since you have already been so successful in your campaigns, people know Amsterdam, you have changed your image. What exactly would be the next game changer for Amsterdam itself?
Yeah, the Amsterdam story. How old is your Singapore?
3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years. Okay, this was 12 years ago. It's interesting because you also have We Berlin. Amsterdam is born in 2003, I think, 4. because we were going down all these rankings, I told you that, and then a designer came up with this, Kessels and Kramer. They came up with this, and they said it has to be inclusive. So the I thing is, when you are going to Amsterdam, you are a part of the Amsterdam DNA. You are maybe there only for 4 days because you're a visitor, but you are in Amsterdam. And what I found so interesting about the logo is that it really works, because when you see people on the letters, they're photographing it, and they're actually on or in the letters, they are actually living the story. I am in Amsterdam. They are literally in Amsterdam. Which is interesting, because we didn't think about that in advance, but it's really, I'm a part of Amsterdam, and that also is for business people who come there. They say, oh, I am, because we have these keychains and things, and they really see it as a compliment to be included in the Amsterdam DNA, as only for 2 hours or 2 days or 1 year as an expat. So I think that really worked. I think your Singapore. The question is it also your Singapore when you are in Singapore? Is it also for Singapore, what do you say, Singaporeans? Yeah. Singaporeans? Is it also for them? Because I think that's very important. When you only say to me in Holland, it's your Singapore and you should come over, or are you saying it to these people, no, it's your Singapore with your museums and it's your collection and it's your cultural infrastructure. So I think that is very important. That's the reason Berlin did the We Berlin after the wall came down. They thought we have to invent something that East Berlin and West Berlin, who are totally there and there, should find a common thing, that it's our city. It's together. We are going to make this city. And We Berlin was very much only focused on inhabitants. They didn't do anything with visitors. It was purely for the. But when you see, and what I found interesting, you have this rapper will.i.am, and he came to Schiphol Airport. We have these huge letters on, and I was seeing his tweet, and he is followed by, I don't know, 6 million people, 20, I don't know, lots of people. And he was standing next to I am as a will person, and he was standing and he tweeted, said, guess where I am? and I thought, but this is exactly answers your question. This is, okay, I am now part of the I Amsterdam experience. So I think that worked. That's the first question. The second question is, what's to do next? Because people say, okay, there are enough people, there are enough visitors, Amsterdam Marketing should take a long leave, and you should have a sabbatical with 120 people, and then just, and because it's seriously suggested now in the newspapers with this whole balance discussion that the city should stop the subsidy to me and give it to healthcare or schools or, which is interesting, because then my immediate response to your question is we should do more for Amsterdam people. And what I earlier said, really look very, very critical what we should do in attracting foreign visitors and really focusing on how much money are we spending in attracting foreign visitors. Maybe we should stop our trade activities. Maybe we should stop actively attracting groups, tour operators. They will come I don't want to forbid them, but there's another thing in rethinking your role in that and say, okay, we're not going to do trade shows anymore. We're not going to do trade calls anymore. We're going to do more things for Amsterdam people. I don't know, but it is a very interesting moment in the history. It's a luxuries, because our mayor always tells about this problem and say, hey guys, come on, it's a luxurious problem. We have too much people, too much income. This is a luxurious problem, but it's a problem. So I think it's a very challenging thing, and I think we can play, as Amsterdam Marketing, a key role in doing this discussion together with our colleagues in Europe the coming year, because there has to change something, and what happens to us will happen to other cities too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a unique problem.
No, it's absolutely not unique. No. It happened in Venice.
Hi, I'm Jason from the Urban Redevelopment Authority. My question relates to one of the tenets you highlighted earlier regarding public-private partnership. Are you able to share a little bit more about how your agency went about to encourage the private sector, apart from the museums and the cultural institutions, to support and contribute towards the city marketing effort? For example, you have brands like Philips, you have the businesses like the hotels, the F&B, the malls and so on. How big a role do they play in the whole city marketing effort?
It's a good question. First of all, let me tell you, this doesn't come suddenly. This was already a tradition in Amsterdam. The Amsterdam Tourist Board, one of the foundations who were in the merge, already had that partner structure. The cultural marketing organization already had a partner structure with all the cultural institutions. So this didn't come as a new thing. We are used to that in Amsterdam. So that's, but of course we had to merge everything. Also we had to merge all the partnerships. And actually, it's a 300 euros a year basic fee. So what is that, 500 Singapore dollars or something? Which is not much. And for a small theater and a small dance company, it's even 150. So that's nothing. And they get a small thing back. They are listed on our site and things like that. And again, I think it's very important that they are on board. They are on board. Also, to talk different to the city back. Van listen, I have 74% of my income are these 1,200 stakeholders. That's the Rijksmuseum there, that's the National Ballet, that's the airport, that's the restaurant. So these are people, and these are stakeholders. So in the discussions with the city, this is a very important thing, that we're not seen as a city-organized organization. But there we, of course, the city plays an important role. My name is called Amsterdam Marketing, so I won't do things that the city council thinks it's stupid, so I'm very much aware of that. But the importance of the stakeholders is very important. Also to have a funding and to have what you could say a ground field in the whole tourism world and cultural world. I think that is very important. But again, it's not who pays decides. There's no guarantee if you are a member that I put you in our window. I love democracy, but this is dictatorship. We are the marketeers, and we decide what is interesting. And if you, for instance, if you are a horrible, ugly attraction, and gives me 100,000 or 200,000 euros a year, then I still wouldn't put you on the cover of our magazine, because I don't think that's the good way. Of course, you should honor your big advertisers. Of course, you honor them. You call them first when you have a place available on the back of your magazine, or if you give them a free seat when you do an event. You honor your advertisers, but it's very, very important that you be how do you call that, on your own in deciding what's best for the window. Independency. It's difficult sometimes.
So a lot of time is spent on managing such clients as well. No?
Yeah, we have 12 people working on the account departments.
Yeah. Further questions? Well, then thank you. I have a last question. Do you have a wooden shoe? I'm kidding. Well,
I used to. They're actually they're very handy when you work in a garden. They're not invented for nothing. So yes, I have a pair, not in Amsterdam, but somewhere else. When I work in the garden, I use wooden shoes,
okay.
But not the yellow ones.
Okay.
The plain wooden ones.
We'll look out for them. Well,
yeah.
thank you
I'll send
so
you
much.
A photo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the audience as well for asking your questions.
We'd like to thank our speaker today and the moderator, Cheryl, and big round of applause for both of them. And we have a little token of appreciation from the Culture Academy. It's a book called The Romance of the Grand Tour, 100 Years of Travel in Southeast Asia.
Thank you so much.
And thank you very much for all of you for being wonderful audience and participants. Thank you, and hope you have a good time, and hope you have brought back with you some inspirational thoughts on the lecture. Thank you.